It's time for number 49 in my series of video game movie reviews, with the 6th and final entry in a series that has lasted 15 years as of the release of this film. So can they go out on a bang, or is it gonna be a whimper? Or maybe in this case it'll be more of a groan. Brains! Resident Evil, the final chapter, is brought to us once again by director Paul W.S. Anderson, and stars, once again, Milla Jovovich, Ali Larter, and Ian Glenn. We pick up soon after the end of the last film, Resident Evil Retribution. At the end of that film, we're left with all the characters that have amassed over the 5 movies up to that point at the White House, with tons of zombies and monsters and everything storming the gates. And they're there all geared up with a whole bunch of high-tech military weaponry and just all looking badass, doing their superhero poses, ready to like lay waste to all them motherfuckers. Looked like it was gonna be a badass scene. I was super hyped for it, and then the fucking credits roll. So I was kind of looking forward to seeing that scene in this movie. But no, we start after that. The movie just starts like, I don't know, an undetermined amount of time, but it's supposed to be soon after that part happened, and apparently they got all fucked up and they lost. So now, series protagonist Alice, once again played by Milla Jovovich, is wandering the wasteland of the capital. Thankfully, to progress the story forward, she gets a message from the Red Queen, the AI little girl from the first and second movie that runs Umbrella's facilities. She tells Alice that you gotta get back to Raccoon City, back to the hive from the first movie, because lying in wait there is a cure for the T-virus, the virus that causes all these monsters and zombies to roam the earth. But she only has 48 hours to get there, get the cure, and put it out amongst the world. If not, the remaining 4,000 or so people that are populating the earth will be wiped out. How will they be wiped out? It doesn't really say, but they will be. So she got 2 days, 48 hours to get her ass there, get this cure, and save the fucking world. Resident Evil, the final chapter, is indeed the final chapter of the Resident Evil film franchise. And yes, I know there's another Resident Evil movie coming out later this year, but that's a reboot. It has nothing to do with this series beyond the name. The story arc of Alice and friends that we've been following since 2002 comes to an end with this movie. And they do tie up most of the loose ends, as much as a Resident Evil movie can tie up loose ends. They put an end to it. They give us a more or less definitive end to this series. I'll give them that much. Now, if you've been following my video game movie review series or my channel for any amount of time, you'll know that I consider the Resident Evil franchise to be a guilty pleasure of mine. I see their flaws. I understand that these are not technically good movies in the traditional sense, but they are entertaining. With the exception of the second one, which I really didn't like, all the other ones have something about them that I've enjoyed. I have a good time watching them. I understand they're not good, but they are fun, and that's kind of what a movie's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun and entertaining, and that is something the Resident Evil series has always been. So when it came to the final chapter, I was really looking forward to it. This was the one that was gonna tie everything up. It was gonna put an end to it. It was gonna be the big, huge, bombastic ending to this series that I've had a lot of good times with over the past 15 years. Now, going into this movie, I was not expecting the best movie ever made. I was really only expecting a Resident Evil movie. They didn't really need to do much more than that. I just needed some dumb fun for 2 hours. I needed what they've been giving me for more or less the past 15 years, but just with an ending instead of a cliffhanger. I'm pretty easy to satisfy in that way. I wasn't asking for much. Just give me pretty much more of what you've been giving me and put a fucking end on it. And in some respects, that is what they did. But in others, no, unfortunately, that is not what they did. Let's get a few things out of the way right now. Story-wise, performance-wise, effects-wise, all that stuff, this is what you've come to expect from the Resident Evil movie. If you didn't like the other 5 movies, you're not gonna like this one. If you found guilty pleasure out of the previous films, you'll enjoy those aspects of this movie, or at least you could. The story is the kind of Resident Evil story that we've come to expect from these kind of movies. It's really basic. They start in this place, there's a thing they need to get that's over here, they gotta get there, fight a bunch of monsters and zombies, and have some really cool action scenes scenes throughout. They don't really do a ton of world building in these movies. They just kind of build worlds as they need them. The movies are a bit inconsistent in that right. I know that, I get it, but I don't really care. Once again, I just want to see some really dumb, fun, cool action scenes that might not totally make sense, but they're shot well, they're a good time, they're exciting. And then just put a satisfying fucking ending to these characters I've been following all these goddamn years. So you might be saying to yourself, well, you said the story's in line with what you've been wanting, the character performances are in line with what you've been wanting, the effects and stuff are in line with what you've been wanting. So what's the problem here? You're making it sound like you aren't really into this one, but everything you said you wanted, it sounds like they gave you. And yes, you're right. They did give me all that. That was the stuff I was wanting, but there was something that they changed in this movie from the other one. Something that is very crucial that you don't really think about often until you see it done in a very bad way. And it was this one thing that really ruined this movie for me. Like I said, I'm pretty easy to satisfy when it comes to these movies. I'm not expecting a lot. So what is that thing, you ask? I'll tell you what the fuck it is. Editing. That's what it is. Now, I know what you're saying. Come on, man, really? Editing? Get the fuck over yourself. And while I know that I probably pay attention to little things in movies like that more than some people, more than the casual viewer, and I can even look past bad editing at times, but the editing in this movie is so fucking horrendous. It's like someone went out of their way to make this movie bad in the editing bay. I fully believe that people that aren't really into movies and the way they're made will watch this movie and they might not point their finger at the editing, but they'll know something's wrong. They'll be like, damn, man, this fucking movie sucks. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like it. It's the editing. I mean, you might think the other shit sucks too, and you might not like that, but if you're cool with that kind of stuff from the other movies, it's not that. It's the editing. It is so fucking horrendous here. It ruined the goddamn movie for me. It's so bad, it pissed me off at times because I couldn't tell what the fuck was going on screen the vast majority of the time. I looked it up. The cinematographer for this movie is the same that it's been for the past 3 or 4 movies. So it's not him. It's the fucking editor. And if you look at the shots, the way they're composed and all that, everything looks good. You got nice shots. The movie looks nice when you can see it because it is chopped to fuck all hell. That cinematography might be nice, but when it's only on screen for about a fraction of a second each shot, then you can't fucking see it, so it doesn't matter. I shit you not, in an 8-second clip of this movie, I counted somewhere in the neighborhood of 30-something cuts within 10 fucking seconds. It was actually a bit more than that, but it was cutting so fast, I could not keep count. There were so many cuts in this scene, and many more, by the way, but in this particular scene that I was analyzing, there were so many cuts. Some of the cuts were so short that it was just a still frame. Not like they meant for it to be a still frame. It was not on screen long enough for it to have motion. It was nothing but a fucking picture. It was like one frame of the film. I went frame by frame and looked, and there are some that in that moment, there's no movement. It's just a picture, and then it goes to something else. I also looked at the editing history of this franchise, and for the past 3 or 4 movies, it's had the same editor. But for whatever reason, this time around, they went with a new editor, and you can abso-fucking-lutely tell. I'm not making this up, and I am not making this a bigger deal than it really is. This shit totally fucking ruined this movie. Like, a lot of the movie, I could not really tell what was going on. I knew shit was going on because just stuff was all over the fucking screen, but that's it. I didn't know what was going on. Just stuff was happening. Sometimes there were vehicles involved because I'd catch a shot of one, or I saw that someone jumped in a vehicle, but after that, it's just so many goddamn cuts, you can't keep up with it. There's also a lot of parts where people die, and you don't even know who the fuck died. It's such a choppy mess that you're like, I'm pretty sure, I feel confident that someone just died. I don't know who, and I'm not even 100% sure how, but someone just died, I think. It may have been one of the main characters. Well, I guess we'll find out in a minute if I don't see that person anymore. Now, the non-action scenes are a little bit better, but they're pretty cutty for a non-action scene as well. Is cutty a term? If it was like that, I definitely would have made note of it, but I could have handled that. I could have at least seen, okay, this is what's going on. We're having more than 3 seconds at a time on screen at any given time before a cut. But the action scenes, they are fucking horrendous. Like, they terrible. And this is a movie with a lot of action. I mean, let's be real. There's not a lot going on in the story department or really any other departments in this movie. It is legit just an action movie. And that would be fine if you could see the action. I mean, what I can see, what I could decipher is going on screen sometimes looked like it could be fun. It could have been cool if I could have fucking seen it. But you can't. You just kind of gotta like fill in the gaps with your brain and say, I guess this is what's going on. Sure, I bet that something along those lines is what's going on here. Fuck, man, it is terrible. This movie, more than any other movie, needs a re-edit. They need to bring in a real editor who can take that footage and edit it together in a way that is cohesive. At that point, this movie might actually be pretty enjoyable. Would it be the best Resident Evil movie ever made? No, but you know what it wouldn't be? Is the worst fucking Resident Evil ever made, which at this point, I'm kind of right there. I'm thinking this is probably the worst. It's at least neck and neck with the second one, but at least the second one, I could tell what was going on for the most part in that movie. It may be better directed than the second movie, but the editing here just totally fucking ruined it. You hear a lot of times people say that this movie or that movie came together in the editing bay. That's where this movie was made, was in the editing bay. Well, Resident Evil, the final chapter, fell the fuck apart in the editing bay. That's where this movie stopped fucking working. To add insult to injury, this movie's terrible production also injured a person to where they are permanently handicapped for the rest of their life and killed another person. Look it up. This movie was like fucking cursed or something. Milla Jovovich's stunt woman is like fucked for life after a wreck that happened due to negligence on the making of this movie. And another guy was like fucking crushed by a Humvee. I mean, this person is dead while they were making this movie. I mean, Jesus, if you're gonna ruin a life and lose another one while making a movie, you could at least make the best fucking movie you could in their memory. Fuck, man. This movie pisses me off because I do like this franchise. I've had some good times with the movies in this franchise, and I really just wanted one more of them that put an end to it. But no, it didn't. I had one more of them that just fucked it all up. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not a lot more I have to say about this movie. Everything else is in line with what we've been getting in the Resident Evil franchise. The performances, the effects, the way the movie looks, all that's fine. I mean, some of it is even good, but Jesus Christ, it's fucking ruined by the editing. I mean, the only other thing I can comment on would be maybe the way that they end the series. Me, myself, I didn't have much of a problem with it. It was kind of like last minute put together in this movie, but like I said earlier, this series has never been about world building. They just kind of build that shit as they go along, as whichever movie they're in needs it. And that's what they did here. They pretty much built the ending of the series within this movie. Was it satisfying? I mean, maybe, I guess it was okay. I can't really say. It's hard for me to say much was satisfying with this movie because it was ruined so much by the fucking editing. But I mean, if it weren't for the editing, just the way that they ended it, I guess I'd be okay with it. I probably wouldn't be nearly as pissed off about it if it wasn't for the shit-ass editing that came along with it. I know I keep on going on about this editing, but it truly did just fucking ruin this movie. And really, because of that shit editing that ran throughout this film, when it came to this ending that I probably would have been fine with if the rest of the movie had been made like they've been made up to this point, the fact that it just kind of ruined the whole movie up to that point, and that part of it as well, when it got there, it just wasn't nearly as satisfying. I wasn't as forgiving. I wasn't okay with it. So even the end of the movie, I was just kind of like, okay, what? I don't really give a fuck. I mean, no, that's not good enough. You need to do better. And that sucks, because like I said, the Resident Evil franchise has always kind of been my guilty pleasure. And it really sucks when you got something you've enjoyed all these years and you get to the last one. You just had to do it one more fucking time. You've done it 5 times at this point. You needed one more time. One more time. That's it. You didn't even need to take it to new levels. You just needed to do the same thing one more time. And you just couldn't. Not only could you not, you had to throw in this whole new fucking monkey wrench and fuck it all up. I do wonder whose decision it was to bring in this new editor, because I know directors typically like working with a lot of the same people that they have in the past. Seeing as how they've had the same cinematographer and editor all these years, and then on the very last one, they switched the editor out. I gotta wonder what happened there. Is there a story? I don't know about that story, but what I do know is this story was fucking ruined by it. So yeah, Resident Evil, the final chapter, just really disappointed me. And I'm a fan, like, of the movies, not just of Resident Evil. I'm a fan of Resident Evil as well, but I'm not like one of those fans of the Resident Evil games that just hate the fucking movie. I'm a fan of both of them. I can see them separately. I understand the movies are different from the games and all that, and I enjoy the movies. I am legitimately a fan of the Resident Evil movie. And this one just sucks. Like, totally sucks. And like I said a moment ago, I don't even have to go through all the pros because everything else is there. The pieces are there, but the way that they're assembled by this editor totally just fucked it all up. It goes to show you that a great editor can absolutely save a movie. But on the flip side of that, a bad editor can absolutely ruin a fucking movie. And that is what happened with Resident Evil, the final chapter. And that is also why, in this fan's opinion, Resident Evil, the final chapter is totally 100% a goddamn dumpster fire. My heart to say it, man, it really does, but this movie just sucked. I've been an advocate for the Resident Evil film franchise for a long time, so to end it like this was just a kick in the fucking balls to me. But it is what it is, I guess, and hopefully the reboot works out, because as far as Resident Evil goes, the final chapter is not something you need to check out. Just leave this one alone, just leave it at Retribution, because this one just fucking sucks. So there it is, guys, my review of Resident Evil, the final chapter. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, for the last time, stay sexy, Raccoon City.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna kill every last one of them.
So what's next on the video game movie review list? Oh, well, video game movies are now taking a page out of the rest of Hollywood's book. If it doesn't work the first one or two times, try again. Love them fucking games though.